that one we're all right on.
Redeem ourselves.
We'll redeem ourselves, absolutely, on that. So we're talking to Jane Drapkin, is that correct?
It is correct, yes.
Who is a coach, and very interesting how she came to coaching. And we've been talking about the sort of the training that she's had. And you were saying you've done some NLP, and for those people who don't know, what is this NLP?
It's a very good question. NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. What it is, it's often described as a user manual for the brain. And it's a range of tools and techniques and exercises and activities that enable you to take control of things that you didn't think you could control. So things like your emotions, your feelings, your responses to situations. So say, for example, you're in a situation and you think, this person always winds me up. I don't know what it is about them. They always wind me up. We've probably all been there. Yeah. There are ways that you can manage it so that whatever they do, you don't get wound up. You are actually in control. You can't necessarily control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to it. And sometimes it's really simple things like just changing language that you use, changing thoughts. Instead of using negative language, I'm not going to let him wind me up. You say, I'm going to stay calm. And that's all you need to do. Other times it might be a lot more in-depth. It's about accessing deep-rooted things in your unconscious that may be affecting how you respond to things. It may be memories, experiences, some deep-rooted beliefs, some things that you just weren't even aware were going on for you. And it's just a way of accessing that. It's not hypnosis, but it is a way of getting at those things in quite a fun way often, doing some quite fun activities that then just unlock those things that are either holding you back or those things that you'd forgotten you'd got that could really help you. So those strengths that you've got in you and those things you've overcome in the past that you can use to help you move on. So it's great. It can be really, really fun. It can be really, really simple, or we can do some really quite sophisticated things with it.
Ooh. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If you, so for example, if you're saying about, if you find yourself in a situation where somebody's winding you up, right, okay. Say it's a father-daughter thing or a mother-son thing or sibling thing or whatever. Do you then work on the two people together, or do you work with people independently? Or just trying to get my head around when you were saying about the whole, it can be fun and different ways that you coach people.
I nearly always coach individuals. I have coached people as a pair, as a couple, but not around issues within their relationship. And I have coached teams.
Right.
But when it's about a relationship, because often people have a relationship either at work or at home that is just difficult for them. And they often will bring to coaching, I wish the other person would, whatever. And what we do in the coaching is we focus on what that person can do, what the client can do themselves. So say it's a problem at home and it's a father-daughter relationship, for example, then it might be around, there could be any number of reasons why that's going on. But it may be things like helping the person just to have the right frame of mind, reframe, put themselves in the other person's shoes. Quite literally, there's a great NLP activity for that. Put yourself in the other person's shoes and pretend you are them. Not pretend you're you in their shoes, but pretend you're them. And how would the conversation or the situation look to them? And sometimes that can be really enlightening. Other times, there's a great activity you can do, which is called anchoring. And if somebody knows that they very often get wound up or feel stressed or anxious, and they'd rather feel calm or happy or energetic or interested or anything, you can actually plant that feeling on them. Maybe put their finger and thumb together and say, every time you squeeze your finger and thumb, you'll actually be able to feel calm or happy or excited instead of feeling those other things. And that's a great tool that people can take away. So in answer to your question, I would work with the person that's in the room and I'd help them to be able to manage themselves in that situation so they're in a better frame of mind to improve the relationship or let it run over them, not let it bother them so much, because let's face it, you can't change people a lot of the time.
Really it is interesting. I sometimes, I'm so similar to my son, for example, that we quite often will flare up at each other. And the way I, just as you were saying, that sometimes, you know, if I'm really, really cross, and let's face it, mummies do get cross sometimes, and I'm kind of towering over him, and I think what stops me is putting myself in his shoes, like you've just said, and imagine somebody you know, powering down on them, and that quite often just stops me in my tracks, and I go, oh, you know. So it was interesting that you've just said exactly what I try. It doesn't always work, but I try and do. Yeah, really interesting.
Well, it's fascinating stuff. I've done some NLP stuff in work situations where we've been coached, and all the thing about visioning and kind of just they gave us one of the examples was they gave us a goal. So what did you think that you had to, where, and how long would it take you to get there? And then we walked it out, and all the steps that it would take, and then stood at the other end once you'd reached that goal and looked back and saw it actually wasn't anywhere near as far or as difficult as you thought it was going to be. And then you walked back again and then re-walked it. And it was fascinating how the physical distance just diminished hugely, and it was a really useful technique, and I've used it. Just so simple, as you were saying, you can make it very simple or very sophisticated, and I think NLP is absolutely fascinating. Should be mandatory for managers to do it, because it really helps you work with people. And really good.
And I think that sometimes when you are in the moment, it's very difficult to take yourself out and look back, you know, when it's actually going on around you. So, you know, I think to have that tool of being able to go, right, hang on a second, before this escalates incorrectly, let's put a stop to it and bring it back. And
it's absolutely that, taking control. And the timeline I use a lot, the reverse timeline, looking back, go to where you want to be. Coaching is all about looking to where you want to be, imagining what it's going to be like to be there, getting there, making it happen. So absolutely, really powerful.
So with your coaching, Jane, what do you find is the best way? Would you find it's online, face to face? Do you Skype with some of your clients, chatting over the phone? How do you find is the best way of?
I do all of those. I do face to face coaching by phone, coaching on Skype, and I do some email coaching, particularly between sessions with an ongoing client. So once there is a relationship established, they all work really well in different ways. For me, I think they're all fantastic. I think phone coaching particularly, or coaching on Skype without the visual, can be really, really powerful, because it allows people to get totally in their own zone. Some people like to come face to face. They like to see me. They also like feeling like they're coming somewhere different from their everyday life, and that's great, and it's lovely and can work really well. And there are some things that you are much, much easier to do face to face. But when I'm coaching people on the phone, the level of listening and concentration and digging deep and revelations and awareness raising and clarity of thought can be even greater, because people are so focused on themselves and their issues and what they're doing. And interestingly, you can almost hear more and see more through that listening when you're doing it on the phone, I find, than even when you're face to face. I can hear people's body language. I can tell when they're looking down and feeling a bit sort of preoccupied or miserable, or listening to that inner voice, or just struggling a bit. And I can hear when they're feeling a bit more buoyant. I have sometimes ask clients to stand up, because I can hear that they're sort of going down and down a bit, so I just ask them to stand up even though I can't see them, and they're like, oh, how did you know that was happening?
And I think certainly for me, I concentrate slightly more. I'm not strong on concentrating, but when I'm on the phone, I tend to concentrate more than if I am one-to-one with somebody. I'm very easily distracted, whereas when I'm on the phone talking to somebody, that's when as I said, I can concentrate a little bit better.
And I think there's something as well about the responsibility for moving forwards ultimately rests with the client, and I'm there to help them make decisions, clarify their thinking, take decisions, take actions, make things happen, identify their goals. But ultimately it's their responsibility to do it. And very often I find people are much more open to taking that responsibility when it's from a distance. Sometimes face to face, there's a little bit of a tendency of, okay, I'm here now, you fix it for me, and I always address those expectations and redress that balance. But I think it's even easier to do when there is that little bit of distance.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yes.
We're just coming up to 11:30. It's Wednesday, the 21st of
goodness.
March. You're listening. I know, we've only got half an hour to go.
Blimey.
Where's the time gone? You're listening to Mid Morning Matters with Pat Redding
Catherine Payne.
and
Jane Drapkin.
thank you, Jane. And we're having a fascinating conversation with Jane. We're just going to break for a piece of music.
Just like that.
That was brilliant,
Thanks.
Catherine.
Thanks.
Next time I'm going to leave the mic open because you sing through the whole song.
It's only because I know all the words.
I know you do.
Sad-o.
I know you do. No, not sad at all. Just need a bit of coaching with Jane, that's all.
Yeah, which I'm going.
So,
I'm booking
Jane,
in.
what sort of things do you actually coach people on? Not Catherine had to, although we're going to come and talk about singing in a bit,
Yes.
aren't we? Because
Yes.
that's a new thing you're doing. So,
is indeed.
but what sort of things do you coach people on?
All
in?
sorts of
In,
things.
in,
Yes,
on.
about.
About, there we go, about. That's the word I was searching for. Yes.
It's really funny. Sometimes people come to me and they say, I've got this issue and I really need some help with it. And that's great. And other times people come and they say, I don't really know what the problem is, but I know things aren't quite right. So sometimes what I'm coaching people on is helping them work out what's going on now, and therefore what they want to do about it and where they want to get to. And sometimes it's much more about, okay, so you want to lose weight. I've had one client who wanted to lose weight. She'd lost weight in the past but not been able to keep it off. She knew how to go about it in terms of diets and exercise, but she couldn't make it happen. She couldn't keep it in her daily life to make it happen and keep it happening. So I work with her. I use personality profiling tools a lot. And one of the things that can be really helpful for is working out what makes people tick and what really motivates people. What is it that enables people to get things done? And for her, it was all about actually having a plan. She loved planning, she loved routine. So how do we incorporate all the things she wanted to do, taking exercise, eating more healthily, into a plan? Because that's what she liked. And once she'd got it in a plan, she could go away and do it. She knew she would follow the plan. I have other people who are much more spontaneous, and actually putting things in a plan just won't work. So we look at other ways. I had another client who wanted to lose weight, and for her it was much more about actually having a lot of different